Hey guys, we're back. I got another Thanksgiving. Got another Christmas book coming for you guys. It's obviously one that I think we all know pretty well. How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Was one of my favorite books as a kid, and obviously they had a few movies about it as well that were pretty classic ones. I think probably the one with Jim Carrey was most well known for me as a kid that came out. I don't know, was it 2002, 3, something like that? So I was 6, 7 years old, and obviously was pretty into that movie and everything that was going on in it. So that was cool. Watched that a lot growing up around Christmas time. So I thought it would be cool to get on and read the original book by the man himself, Dr. Seuss, where the whole idea came from. But I hope you guys are all enjoying the time right now, maybe getting a little bit of time off. All you kids, I know I'm getting sure are pretty excited for Christmas coming up. We're closing in on it pretty quickly now, so always one of my favorite times of the year. I love Christmas for a lot of different reasons, but being together with family is probably my favorite part of it. Getting to spend time with those guys isn't something that I get to do as much anymore, less and less, as time goes and everybody gets older. And obviously I live in a different state now, so it's nice getting back and spend time with them. But we'll go ahead and find out how the Grinch stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. There he is, the Grinch himself. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown, the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. And he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys, and then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, noise, noise. It's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Looks very noisy in Whoville. When the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. And they would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beef, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. That right there is a big feast. Who doesn't love a Christmas feast? And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down Whoville, the tall and the small, stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now, I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. Looking very sinister the Grinch is with his wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy treat. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply stated. If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and tied a big horn to the top of his head. Max is now a reindeer. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. And the Grinch said, "Giddy up," and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. I don't think Max is in on the Grinch's idea very much. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. And he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimbley. There he goes. Ruining Christmas, the Grinch is. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why? That Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. Last piece that he has not taken. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard the small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who'd got out of bed for a cold cup of water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" He's been caught. But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot, this fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was a log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. Even the mouses are not enjoying Christmas at this point. It was 1:15 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. Max has got his work cut out for him. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Pooh-pooh to the Who's," he was grinchishly humming. "They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what I'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo." It's a big ol' sleigh full there. "That's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville, the Grinch popped his eyes, then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came, somehow or other. it came just the same. And they're still looking pretty merry. I think the Grinch is learning something now. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore, and the Grinch thought of something that he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. He's he's rolling down the hill. He's had a change of heart. He himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef. Serving it up. The Grinch has become a fan of Christmas. And that is how the Grinch stole Christmas. So, at the end of the day, the Grinch really, he didn't steal Christmas. He gave everything back. But a great story, one of my favorites. I think everybody loves that book and everything that's come with it. All the movies, TV shows, everything that's come about the Grinch stealing Christmas. So, hope you guys have a great holiday coming up pretty quickly here. So, I enjoyed getting to read through this book, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And we'll be back again soon to read some more.